Hi, I'm Greg Alvarado, Chief Editor of the Inspectioneering Journal, and we're back for another whiteboard discussion. And the goals of this discussion are to empower you, hopefully to give you some justification, some basis, some background, and maybe some perspective to help you sell your program to management and make it sustainable by their backing of it. With that, let's get started. So, today we're going to talk about how to empower reliability program optimization. Well, what do I mean by optimization? Well, we live in a highly competitive environment. Gas, oil, chemicals, petrochemicals all around the world, very competitive environment. And some companies have been proven to be high performers. So when we look at some of the studies that are coming out of the market, we see two of the big things that are looked at, like how do I get in that top quartile of availability or reliability, and how can I do that at the lowest cost? So, why is this even coming up? Well, we have practices out there and things we're doing in the plants. Some of them are good, some of them are valuable, some of them have outlived their usefulness or they are overkill. Now, how do we know what's overkill and what we need to keep doing? Well, it's no surprise historically that when we have failures in the industry, some that reach the media, many don't, when we have leaks and so forth, but we are having failures, things are happening, there are losses. And typically we'll react to those losses like a pendulum. Pendulum will swing one way, oh, we just had this explosion, this fire, this failure, so we're going to put all these practices into place. But maybe on a smaller scale, maybe we had a turbine failure, a compressor failure. Maybe we had a leak that didn't lead to anything catastrophic, but nonetheless, we had a failure. Well, we usually react to those. We'll inspect more, or we'll put more devices in place, or start monitoring more, or start doing something more. And we may have done these things 30 years ago, and we're still doing them today at the same level, but we don't know at this point where it's overkill or where it's justified. And we'll get into that in a minute. But these are those past failures and so forth. And how we react is like a pendulum, usually overreact and then get complacent and go back the other way. But these things that we put in place have cumulative impacts. They add to cost, but are they adding to reliability? So what we need to do is challenge the status quo. What are we doing that we need to be doing? What aren't we doing that we need to be doing? And what can we get rid of that's not bringing any value? In other words, how do we optimize without compromise? We don't want to compromise our safety performance, only continuously improving those things. And we obviously don't want availability or reliability to suffer either. If anything, for some of you, you want those to get better, but you want to do it at optimized cost. You want to do it at the lowest cost possible. So how are we able to go back, look at what we're doing, figure out what's justified or paying for itself, and identify what's not so we can get rid of it or cut back on it appropriately? A lot of this is driven by perspective, right? I was at an inspection summit, API inspection summit some years ago, where Mr. John Reynolds gave a presentation after 100 or more surveys, audits, gap assessments that had been done on plants through the API AFPM process. And he put up a list of about the 5 or 10 top things where he believes there's room for improvement. And a couple of those things really struck me. One is that inspectors today aren't doing as much data analysis as they are managing outside contractors. So the inspectors need to be analyzing more. The analysts need to be analyzing. Another thing he pointed out is that they have to deal with a mountain of data. Well, this mountain of data is very daunting. And the bad actor information, or the information pointing to the bad actors, is only in about 3 to 5% of that haystack. So how do we find those needles in the haystack, right? What can point us to those things? And we can use tools like risk, criticality prioritization to help us find those needles in the haystack. So those initiatives you have out there, like RCM, RBI, and then ultimately IOWs and DMRs, our integrity operating windows and damage mechanisms reviews, are only some examples of some of the initiatives we have going. And some of these initiatives, the more higher level management style, are helping us prioritize things. Where do we need to be looking? Is it really justified? But when we optimize costs and we optimize performance, we're not going to cut out things that are going to cause damage. So we want to rightly identify what do we need to be doing, when do we need to be doing it, and when is the optimal time to take that action. So these processes that we use must be systematic, they've got to be consistent, they've got to be connected. And we've got to be diligent about managing those systems and executing on those systems. So once we get these types of initiatives in place, what other kinds of things we have to think about? Connectedness. Things like enterprise asset management programs, they can be a great tool, but they can be a money drain if you're not getting the value out of them. How many of you are using these enterprise asset management systems to compare similar units, maybe across the country or across the world from one another, when you encounter an issue and you begin to look for characteristics of where it could exist someplace else? Or maybe you have some outstanding practices that you're using in certain places and you want to analyze your data across the corporation to find out where there may be other opportunities to introduce these practices to help them improve their processes if they're needed. And so hopefully you can see where a tool like RBI or RCM or some of these structured criticality assessments can help us take a huge amount of information and be able to distill it, not just in action, but in time, to see when and where and what you should be doing at the most appropriate time. Technology exists today, and especially when we look at enablers like AI and other digital-related tools, to help us identify when that optimum time is to take that action. And another thing I want to encourage you in is to have a really robust and effective RCA program, root cause analysis, because none of these leaks and failures occur in a vacuum. There's usually multiple contributing reasons for why that leak or failure occurred. And I challenge us to say, if we have a good, robust RCA program in place, and I know that some of you do have programs in place that actually prioritize what level of effort should be placed on that RCA, but the output should be used to come back and improve these programs. How can the organization learn? Learn by our mistakes, learn by the mistakes of others. You've got your connected programs out there. Use those to help you push those best practices to all the other places within your organization where they are appropriate, so you can arrive at a truly optimized program. And remember, an optimized program isn't just about cost reduction. It's about having the degree of availability, reliability, and safety that you really need. Thank you very much for joining us. I hope this helps you. Keep in touch with Inspectioneering. Let us know what you think. Thank you and have a good day.